Welcome back to Vegas Weekly, Volume 1, Number 2. It's March 28th, 2020. Are you feeling a little bit cooped up? Well, why not settle in for the next 15 minutes or so and we'll talk about Vegas. First, I wanted to thank everybody that did check out the new format last week. Had a lot of positive comments, so we certainly appreciate that. It is a difficult time in a sense to talk about Las Vegas because there isn't a lot of fun things. If I showed you a video of Las Vegas, you could at least feel sort of whimsical and happy to see an old familiar place that you can't visit just right now. But we're going to continue to talk about Las Vegas here on a weekly basis. And if you like what you see, please hit that subscribe button. We're really close to 1,300 subscribers, which absolutely is mind-boggling. Thanks to all who have. Of course, absolutely free, and you want to ring that bell. And one of the reasons you're going to want to ring that bell is to listen to me make fumble around with words, which I do so well. No, this following Wednesday, April the 1st, April Fool's Day, somehow an appropriate day. We'll be having our second live stream, 8 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Adjust your own times accordingly. That's kind of 9 o'clock on the East Coast, 6 o'clock Vegas time. Fill in the blanks. We'll be talking about Vegas, talking about maybe some of our memories of Las Vegas, talking about when we're planning to make it back, and some of the things we're going to hopefully not take for granted going forward. So come check it out. It may just devolve into a bunch of nonsensical chatter, but this time of year when you can't get out and engage in nonsensical chatter with your friends, why not do it with me and a number of my friends? So we'll be doing that on Wednesday. Before we get started with the meat and potatoes of our show, we always like to start with a stiff drink, particularly these days. You know, if you're looking to erase painful memories, there's nothing that does it just as well as tequila. And this week, our friend, not a professional bartender, PJ, is whipping up a tequila concoction that will certainly brighten up any day. So, without any further ado, take it away, PJ.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Cocktail of the Week with your host and not a professional bartender, PJ.
Hey, John, thanks for that fabulous intro to another episode of Cocktail of the Week. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. PJ here, bringing you another fantastic drink. Today's drink is going to be a Tequila Sunrise. That's right, Tequila Sunrise. Very simple drink, a favorite of everybody's, and just 3 ingredients: tequila, orange juice, and grenadine. And we're going to make that for you here in just a moment. But first, I want to do a quick shout out to Matt Bridger, this fabulous t-shirt, an effing hand pay. I don't think I can say effing on here. I don't want to get John in trouble or a strike from YouTube, so we'll just leave it as an effing hand pay. Anyhow, if you'd like to get one, check out his channel as well. And most of you, I think, have already subscribed to him, especially if you're following Vegas vloggers. He was one of the first. Anyhow, let's get right into Tequila Sunrise. So we'll be right back with all the ingredients, and I hope you're thirsty. Alrighty, welcome back everybody. Alright, as you can see, I have my 3 ingredients right here in front. I've got my ice shaker, I've got my garnishes. We are ready to make a Tequila Sunrise. Are you ready? Okay, here we go with 1 ounce of tequila. 3 ounces of orange juice. 'Oh crap, I need 1 more ounce. We'll just do looks like about 1 ounce. One of these days it'll all be perfect. Alright, then we're going to add our ice to the shaker. Yes, I washed my hands. Alright. Now let's shake it up, shall we? And no, this Tequila Sunrise is not sponsored by Matt Bridger. Alrighty. Let's get our glass. Oop. Ice. Did I mention how perfect these square cubes of ice are? Fantastic. Alrighty. Now let's pour this puppy in there. Ooh, that looks good. You know, the problem is on some of these I don't have the proper glass. So as you can see, it's not quite filling up like it does in the bar. And maybe they add more stuff. I'm going by the exact ingredients to do this stuff. But anyhow, let's just add a little bit more orange juice. I know it's going to cut into the potency of this. But I'll be fine with that. All right, let's now add the grenadine. This is what's going to give us our sunrise effect, hopefully. You can see that puppy. Here we go. Garnish with a little orange. And let's drop in our cherry. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, that is one lovely cocktail. Want to let me know how it tastes? Sure you do. Here you go. Enjoy, everybody. God, that's good. That is so good. Man, you got to make yourself one of these things. Once again, Tequila Sunrise. 1 ounce of tequila. 3 ounces of orange juice, ½ ounce of grenadine syrup. Garnish with an orange. Plop in a cherry. Drink to your heart's desire. All right, everybody. I think that's going to wrap it up for another cocktail of the week. John, what are you doing over there? Put that down. You need one of these puppies. Take it away, John. Goodbye, everybody.
The classic Tequila Sunrise. A drink I've enjoyed in the past. Haven't had one in a while, but I might have to check that out. Once again, make sure you check out PJ's new PJs Cocktails channel when he'll be, I think, a couple of times a week. In addition to what he's doing on this show, PJ is giving us a look at some other fun cocktails that you can make at home. And hey, with the bars closed, that's what you need to do. Speaking of closings and openings, let's get to the Vegas news this week. And of course, it's related to the coronavirus, but it's also related to some rumors, some announcements that we've seen over the past week that suggests that the casinos are gearing up for a May 1st reopening. Well, for some of you may be like, yay, I can go back to Vegas. And others of you may be, that doesn't seem like a good idea. That's not going to be enough time to contain this virus and make us feel at all comfortable about going out certainly to the casino. Well, to both of you, I don't think you want to get too worked up about it for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's just kind of human psychology when we started seeing postponements and cancellations and people saying you should stay home for 2 weeks, or we're going to suspend operations for 30 days. You know, if they come out and say at that point, hey, we need you to stay home for 6 weeks, you know, we need to close everything for 6 months. There was enough panic as it was. And even though a couple of more months is probably a more reasonable assessment of the time frame, you know, realistically, that 30-day closure is probably going to be at least another 30-day closure. Now, if you go on the casino websites, particularly Caesars and MGM, because I did that last night just to check, at the conclusion of the 30 days that the casinos are supposed to close, the last day of which would be April 16th, starting April 17th, it shows room availability. You can, I assume, go on there and make a reservation. I didn't try. A lot of comp nights, even at places I wouldn't expect to have comp nights, particularly during that first couple of weeks. But the second thing about this to remember is you kind of have to come up with a strategic plan of how to reopen these casinos whenever it happens, because it's never been done before. Sure, we've had casinos closed for remodeling, hotels closed for remodeling, but again, it's a process of how to reopen that. And we're talking about doing that in the case of the larger casino companies on a very large scale. So would it be absolutely irresponsible if the casinos were not trying to put in place some kind of mechanism for how they're going to reopen? You know, if you've got multiple hotel towers, initially you're probably not opening all of them, are you? If you're Wynn Encore, you're not opening Wynn and Encore. Maybe you don't open the hotel at all immediately. Maybe you just open the casino or a part of the casino. If you do that, are you taking different measures, still trying to keep social distancing in place in terms of the design of the casino floor? Are you going to allow smoking, particularly with a respiratory illness? That may be something that goes the way of the dodo when these places reopen. You're certainly not going to reopen every shop, every restaurant. And again, there's going to be a process whenever it happens. It will be very interesting to watch because, again, we have never seen anything like that. So I wouldn't get too excited about there actually being a May 1 reopening because I think, as I say, some of it's psychology and some of it is the necessary planning that you have to put in place as a major corporation when you're planning to reopen what are essentially small cities. Unprecedented. One further piece on the coronavirus, and I think I mentioned it last week, and we've certainly seen it this week. Don't over panic at the denominator. Yes, this show has math. As we are seeing this virus spread, and I think even more importantly, as we're seeing increased availability of testing, you're going to see the number of people who are infected or who have been infected at some point is going to grow rather large. One of the reasons that we want to maintain that social distance, because there are a number of people who've probably had the virus and either had very minimal symptoms or were completely asymptomatic. You would never have known. And so as we start to identify these people, as we're able to test better, as we're able to isolate people that have the disease better, it's going to help us in the long run. But seeing those numbers grow can be a little frightening, and certainly, again, I don't think the news media is doing us any favors leading with those big numbers. The more important number are probably the numbers in the numerator, and that's the folks who get really sick and the number of people who die. That's the number that concerns me, regardless of how big that bottom number is. You know, the one thing I think that getting a better image of how many people have this and how it affects them and how it affects different people differently, and we will start to learn that, is we'll have a much greater assessment of how dangerous this thing is, and hopefully have a better plan in place to treat those folks that come down with it. Again, treatments, we're starting to see some promising treatments. I think we'll see more. I know we'll see more going forward. So again, don't freak out about anything at this point. It's not going to do you any good. So just stay safe. Do what you've been doing. And if you've not been doing what you should be doing, then stay home unless you need to go out. Go for a walk. You're allowed to go for a walk unless you're, quarantined. So anyway, that's not actually our Vegas tip or trick of the week. And if you may remember from past week, we're going to be counting down our top 10 Vegas tips or tricks starting now. Okay, number 10, and it could be number 1, honestly. I sometimes say it's the best Vegas tip or trick that I can offer someone, particularly a first-time visitor. I mean, it's a very soulful tip. And I don't want to just sit here and be a heel and wag my tongue, but what I'm talking about today are shoes. Wear comfortable shoes. Don't get a bunch of fancy new dress shoes and heels and pumps and boots and things like that and take them to Vegas and think this is going to end well, because it isn't. You want an example of this, just hang out outside any major strip resort on a Friday or Saturday night and watch the beautifully dressed, lovely young ladies in particular as they limp up and down the street in their bare feet carrying their fancy designer shoes. Yeah. Hey, if you're going to go out somewhere, bring a nice pair of shoes along, but for walking, for daily activities, you want to emphasize comfort. If you don't, your feet are going to hate you. One time as I was going to Vegas, basically on the airplane, my shoes started to fall apart. So I had to get a pair of shoes. I went to the paragon of shoe pleasure, Payless Shoe Source. There's one just a mile or so off the strip, or there was. And I got a pair of shoes. I thought, hey, these look pretty nice. You know, I could get into clubs with these. I'm going to look fancy. And that was a mistake. My feet were in pain because, you know, they weren't broken in and they're just not as comfortable. So make sure you take your best and most comfortable pair of walking shoes to Las Vegas, or you will regret it. That's our Vegas tip or trick of the week. One of our top 10. Tune in next week for number 2 or number 9, I guess, on our all-time Vegas tips or tricks. Now it's time for This Week in Vegas History. And as always, I'm going to cheat a little bit because it's my show and I get to cheat. And so what we're going to talk about in This Week in Vegas History is this next week in Vegas history. Because on April the 1st, 1966, the Aladdin Hotel and Casino opened its doors. Now the Aladdin has had a checkered history. I visited it very late in its life, back in 1996. It was, to me, a sad, dark casino. I remember it being set back quite a distance from the street, so it was quite a hike just to get into it. It has had a checkered past. It is perhaps most notable for having hosted the wedding of Priscilla and Elvis Presley just a year or so after its opening. Their marriage lasted longer than many of the ownership groups for this hotel, which seems vaguely cursed. The history of the Aladdin goes all the way back to 1962, when it was originally opened as the Tally Ho. I love that name, the Tally Ho. Can we bring that back? The Tally Ho was a non-casino resort. It was ahead of its time. It was Vidara. It was Waldorf Astoria. It was, by all accounts, a lovely hotel. It did reasonably well, but the lack of casino revenue, at least at that time, ultimately caused it to change hands the following year. Was purchased by a hotel-motel chain, and there was all kinds of ownership finagling that went on over the next couple of years in the attempt to get a casino license, and it kept falling through. Finally, in January of 1966, it was purchased by Milton Prell, who is also well known for having built the Sahara Resort a number of years earlier. Apparently, Milton was quite fond of the Middle East and Arab themes because he decided the hotel would be called the Aladdin. It would feature a large Aladdin's lamp. It would feature a fabulous portico share, if you will. It was, by all accounts, a very nice property. It had an attached golf course. It had some wonderful restaurants. Over time, it would accumulate a number of hotel towers, I think a couple at least. It had a performing arts center that would feature people as varied as Iron Maiden and George Carlin. It, however, as I mentioned, had a very checkered history, and at times, certainly during the 1970s, was clearly operating as a front for organized crime. It was shut down by the Nevada Gaming Commission in 1979, ultimately reopened in 1980 with an ownership group that included Las Vegas legend Wayne Newton. It was quite a dust-up between Wayne and all-time favorite talk show host Johnny Carson, who's group was in fact spurned. So there's quite a few that went on between them. At one point, back in the day, Donald Trump was considering buying the Aladdin, but was not willing to pay the price that was being asked at the time. Interesting. As I say, the place just never really caught on. Never seemed to get traction, never seemed to make the kind of money that some of the other casinos around it did. Never got sort of, bought up by other larger properties. And so by 1997, it was announced that it would be torn down and replaced with a new Aladdin. It was imploded in April of 1997. The new Aladdin would open shortly thereafter. It was not much more successful, unfortunately, and it passed through a few hands before ultimately landing as Planet Hollywood a few years past that. It had a few years of independence before being picked up by Caesars. It is a property that is a favorite of many of ours and has become a place that we very much enjoy hanging out and staying. It's also been rumored that if the Caesars El Dorado merger goes through, that it might be spun off again. But again, today we're really talking about that historic Aladdin Hotel. So April 1st, 1966, the Aladdin opens. That's our week in Vegas history. Well, we hope that you had a great week, and again, hoping that you are staying well, staying healthy, staying indoors as much as possible, and hope that you enjoyed today's show. Again, don't forget to join us Wednesday night for the live stream. We'll be back here again next Saturday with another episode of Vegas Weekly. Until then, I hope that you have a great and lucky week. We will see you soon.